Hey Archery Talk, this is Lucas, and today I'm here to offer my long-term review of the Maven CS.1 spotting scope. This is Maven's newest scope, and it is far and away their most affordable. Maven's S series is kind of their ultra premium scopes, kind of designed to go against your Swarovskis of the world, and those are $2,000 scopes. The CS1 comes in at $650, and while I'd hesitate to call that cheap by any means, I mean, I've had cheaper spotting scopes that performed like cheap spotting scopes before. This one has comparables really in the $1,000 range. We're looking at like the Vortex Viper HD, the Leupold I think SX-4 are both kind of in the same specs range as this thing. It just comes in hundreds of dollars less. If you don't know much about Maven, they just sell direct to consumers, so there's no dealers or anything like that. So I'm guessing that's how they can keep their prices down a little bit less than the other guys and still have a quality product. And I've been using this now for, I don't know, since July I think I've had this scope. I've used this out in the woods. I've used this on the target range all over the place, and I don't often kind of try to overly sing the praises of a product, but in this case I'm gonna have to, because I mean I've used a lot of kind of mid-level scopes before, of my own and friends, and the Maven is for me, for scopes that are in that like $500 to $700 price range, the Maven is blowing all those out of the water. It's that $1,000 class that it's really competing against, and with that $650 price tag, there's a whole lot of value in this. Let's go over some of the specs on this scope. It's got a magnification of 15 by 45, and it's got an objective lens of 65 millimeters. Now, a 65 millimeter objective lens is, a bigger lens would be nice for low light situations. But if you're adding that larger, if you're put an 85 millimeter objective lens on there, you're going to do a couple of things. One, you are going to get better low light performance, but you're going to move the price tag up a fair bit, and you're going to make this thing a whole lot heavier. This scope comes in just over 40 ounces. That's over a pound lighter than most comparables, like that Vortex Viper HD and that Leupold SX-4 that we talked about. Those things are in around 60 ounces, so that's a pound and 4 ounces you're saving with a scope like this. That's a lot for those guys who are going to be backpacking and carrying and wanting to shave as many pounds as they can. Other features worth talking about on the Maven CS1 are its ultra low dispersion ED glass. Lenses are all fully coated, hopefully scratch resistant, if not scratch proof. And it's also fog proof, it's waterproof. This thing is really built to take some punishment. It's also got an aluminum magnesium frame to keep it kind of hopefully strong and long lasting for a long time. I have not really knocked this thing around too much. I typically don't hunt with a spotting scope. Where I live, up in Ontario, Canada, we're mostly hunting in the tight trees and things like that, so there's not as much of a need for a spotting scope. I use this a lot for tournament archery. So I've dragged this to my club 1,000 times. When it was open, I've brought this up to the cottage to kind of do some long range testing on this. And it's a setup that I like quite a bit. I would never need that larger magnification. I would understand if you're a Western hunter and you're really covering vast swaths of open land and you really need to see great detail far away. If you want to have like an 80x zoom or 65x zoom or something like that, I can see how that would be something you'd want to look into and pay a little bit more money for. But for the rest of us who don't need quite that kind of long range detail, this scope is suiting my needs just fine. I mentioned I shot this thing in target archery at my club, which is a 70 meter indoor club. I can very easily see if my arrows are touching lines at 70 meters. That's 76 yards away. So you're looking at micro diameter arrows and see if they're brushing against the 9 or the 10 ring. No problem with this scope. It is that clear, and the glass. I'm not seeing a lot of distortion around the edges. I should say that I am not an optics expert. There are some people out there who do this for a living who can offer you a lot more kind of nuanced details and information than I can. But from my experience, I'm not seeing that distortion around the edges of the sight picture. So when you're looking through this thing, I'm getting a pretty clear view the whole way, even maxed out with that 45 zoom. Using that zoom, I think you're definitely going to want a tripod, especially if you're going to spend more time using that 45x zoom. I think you could probably get away with like a monopod, or even just resting it on your backpack or something like that if you're in the woods. If you're using just like that lower end of the magnification, like 15 to 20, it could still stay relatively steady. I mean, I've used binoculars that are 15x before, and I don't have anything to help hold those up, so that works fine. And the functionality of this thing is also quite nice. The focus ring is textured, and it's zero play, zero slop in there. It's fairly easy to move, but it does not have any kind of wiggle or anything like that you wouldn't want. The zoom ring is made of the same texture material. It's obviously smaller. It's a little stiffer, which I kind of like, so you're not going to accidentally move that. And also has zero slop in it whatsoever. There's an eye relief out here, so you can put that out or in as much as you like, just to suit your needs. All the functionality you expect in any spotting scope. I also prefer an angled lens. I know, just depending which way you kind of look through the scope at. I like the 45-degree angle rather than the straight scope. And the nice thing about this is there's an adjustment dial on here, so you can rotate this basically 360 degrees. Here, I'm going to loosen it right now and show you. And then you can just put the scope in whatever position you want it to go in, and then just lock it down into place, no problem whatsoever. So I mentioned earlier that I had brought this scope, up into the woods to see a little bit. At one point I brought it to family cottage, and I just put it. We have a small lake. Sits on a small lake, and I was able to pick out deck chairs across the lake on people's docks or individual trees. It's about 2 kilometers across, so 1.5 miles, I guess, something like that. So it's not exactly a giant place, but you can at least make out fairly good detail that far away when you're maxed out in zoom. I don't want to oversell this. That it's not a 60 zoom, it's not a 70 or 80 zoom or anything like that. It's just 45. But you'd be surprised with how much ground you can cover on that. So if you do up and hunt some open land, I wouldn't have any real issue with this. Again, I think a larger objective lens and a larger zoom would help if you're in the mountains and you have these giant bowls and valleys to cover. But again, for the needs of the majority, I think a scope like this is pretty darn good. As for complaints, as I'm not an optics expert, I don't want to I can't really talk too much about how this particular glass design or anything like that. It's not my area of expertise at all. It's the Maven products I've tested in the past, including some binoculars I've reviewed on Archery Talk's YouTube channel. You can check that out for yourself. I'll link it above. Those all held up really well for me. So I have no doubt the scope will be able to take some abuse as well, and it is covered by a fully lifetime warranty. So if you do damage this thing, Maven should be there to help you out. Again, I've never had to take advantage of their warranties before, but I suspect they'll stand by their lifetime warranty like any other brand would. The only real issue I have is I wish there was a way to kind of keep the lens cap and the eyepiece cap connected when you take them off. So I'm a kind of guy who tends to misplace things, and I have already misplaced the eyepiece cap on this thing. But if there was some kind of a hooking mechanism where they would just dangle off when you're not using them and you can put them back on easily, I think that would be something I would like to take advantage of. But that might just be my own issues and nothing to do with anybody else. But if you're the kind of person like me who tends to lose things, maybe you want to retrofit something yourself, just so you don't end up losing that eyepiece cap like I did. Because I don't want to scratch these lenses and eyepieces, because the picture's clear right now, and I really don't want to ruin that. Archery Talk, I think that's about all I have to say for now. If you got any questions, please ask me in the comments. I'll do my best to answer, and if I don't know the answers, I'll talk to Maven. I'll get them to answer for you. They'll hopefully have some more detailed info than I can provide with my slightly, uneducated opinion. But thank you so much for watching. Please do like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel an awful lot, and we'll see you again soon.